Hi all, today we discuss section 6.4 invariant subspaces. We shall introduce a few concepts which are useful in attempting to analyze a linear operator. We will use these ideas to obtain the characterizations of diagonalizable linear operators in terms of their polynomials, although we have already discussed the characterization of linear operator in terms of the eigenspace. We defined invariant subspaces. Let V be a vector space and T belongs to L of V. T is a linear operator. A subspace W subset of V is said to be invariant under T. This is what we call invariant under T. Invariant under T if for each vector alpha in W, the vector T alpha is in W. Okay, that means the meaning of the statement is if you consider the image set of this T or T of W for the subspace W, this is always contained in W. This is the meaning of the invariant subspace. If you have a vector space here V, and if we take a W, then for each also we have V and W is here. So for any alpha, if you consider linear transformation T, this W is said to be invariant under T. For each alpha, we have T alpha is in W itself. Okay, so this is the idea of invariant subspaces. So there are a number of examples are given in your textbook. This simple example is singleton set 0, that is trivial subspace. If you take W is equal to singleton set 0, if you take any T belongs to L of V, for any T, for T belongs to L of V, we have T of 0 is always 0 that belongs to W. As this W contains only one element, it trivially satisfies the condition for invariant subspace. That means for all T belongs to L of W, okay, sorry, L of V, we have W is invariant under T. That means if W is equal to this singleton set 0 under T. Okay, so this is an interesting example. Another interesting example for this invariant subspaces can be discussed as if we have two arbitrary linear transformation T and U belongs to L of V. So these are two arbitrary transformations, and if we assume Tu is equal to Ut, that means T and U commute. Okay, in this case, if you represent R is the range of U, range of one of these transformations, range of U, and N is the null space of U. N is the null space of U, then you can easily prove that this R and U, then R and, if we set this are the notations, R and N are the range and null spaces respectively, then these R and N are invariant subspaces under T. Okay, subspaces under T. That means T commutes with U and take the range and null space of this U, then both will be invariant under T. Okay, so first you take a range R. R is the range, so R consisting of set of all beta such that beta is equal to U alpha for some alpha belongs to V. Okay, so this is the definition of the range, and we will prove that this R is invariant under T. In order to prove R is invariant under T, we need to get a image of any element of R is again in R itself. So we start with beta belongs to R, and we will consider T of beta. We'll prove that T of beta is in R itself. Okay, so T of beta can be written as T of, since this beta is an element of range, beta can be written as U alpha for some alpha, that is equal to this T U of alpha is same as U T of alpha, since this T and U commute. So you write this is T U of T alpha. So that is equal to U of T alpha. Okay, and T alpha is again an element of V, because this T is the linear operator. Then you can write this is equal to U of something. Okay, so T beta can be written as T of, we write T of alpha. In fact, this belongs to R. Okay, because any this contains, R contains elements which are images of some element of V under this U. So this T beta is also an element, an image of some element of V under U. Then this T beta is also in R. So it shows that beta belongs to R implies T beta belongs to R. Okay, this shows that R is invariant under T. Now you consider the null space. We define null space as set of all beta such that T beta is equal to 0. So this is the definition, U beta is equal to 0, since this N is the null space of U. Now we will prove whenever beta belongs to N, then T beta belongs to N. So beta belongs to N, then consider T beta. Okay, so we will prove that we need to prove that T beta is also in N. So in order to get this T beta an element of N, we need to consider the image of this T beta under U. We will prove that U of T beta is equal to 0. U of T beta can be written as T of U beta, because T and U commute, and U beta is equal to 0 because beta comes from this N, then U beta is equal to 0. So this implies T of 0, that is equal to 0. So whenever beta belongs to N, U of T beta is equal to 0. That implies T beta belongs to N, because the image of T beta is equal to 0, which shows that N and R are the invariant subspaces under T. Another relevant example is the eigenspaces. Let T belongs to L of P, and C is a characteristic value. Then we have discussed what is the eigenspace corresponding to C. I call it as WC. So this is the characteristic space or eigenspace corresponding to the C. It consists of all vectors. Alpha belongs to V such that T minus Ci of alpha equal to 0. So this is what we called, or you can write this such as set of all alpha belongs to V such that T alpha equal to C alpha. Both will be the same set. Okay. So if this is W, and we can easily say that this this WC, that eigenspace, the characteristic space corresponding to C, is always invariant under T. Okay, then we write this WC is invariant under T, invariant under T. Okay, so how will you prove that? We take an element of this set and apply T of that, and that will also in this one. Okay, so we write we take alpha belongs to WC. Okay, and consider T alpha. We'll prove that T alpha, we need to prove that this implies T alpha also belongs to WC. How will you check this T alpha belongs to WC? We need to find out the image, this T minus Ci of T alpha. We will prove that this quantity is equal to 0. Okay, now this can be written as T minus Ci of T alpha is equal to T of T minus Ci of alpha. Okay, but we know that this is same as 0 because alpha comes from this, then that is equal to 0, T of 0, that's equal to 0. Okay, this is because we know that T minus Ci of Cit is same as this is equal to T square minus Ct, and this can be written as T times T minus Ci. That means T and T minus Ci commute. Then if these two are commute, if these two are linear operators which commute, then we know that the null space of this T minus Ci that we have discussed just above, T minus Ci, null space of T minus Ci is nothing but the WC. So WC is invariant under T because T commutes with this linear operator. If you take this as the linear operator U, then we can say that ut is equal to Tu here. Okay, so T and U commute. Then the null space of U, also the range as well. Range and null space of T minus Ci, that is U, is also invariant under T. That means WC is invariant under T, that we have written here. So we use these ideas to get the characterization of diagonalized linear operator. Now we discuss the relation between the linear operator on V and its restriction to an invariant subspace. So let W be a is a subset of V is a let this be a subspace or invariant subspace under T belongs to L of V. Now we consider the characteristic polynomial of T and the characteristic polynomial of its restriction to W. Okay, when since this W is a invariant subspace, if we consider T from or the restriction of this T to the W from W to W, because every element of this is because T of W is contained in W itself, because this is invariant subspace. Then T, if you restrict our this is TW denotes the restriction of T to the subspace W. Okay, so this is always a linear operator on W itself. So that means this symbolize TW belongs to L of W and T belongs to L of V. Okay, so these are two linear operators. The meaning of this is TW of alpha is same as T of alpha for all alpha belongs to W. That means this TW and T coincide if this the element comes from the subspace W. Okay, in this case we consider the characteristic polynomials of these two linear operators. So we start with a basis B consisting of or first we start B prime. This is the basis alpha 1 alpha 2 etc. alpha R is a basis of W, is a basis of W. Okay, of W. Then this is linearly independent. Anyway, this can be extended to a basis of V as well. So let V is equal to, we extend these elements alpha 1 alpha 2 etc. alpha R etc. Alpha R plus 1, we extend this to alpha N. That means extend B prime, extend B prime to be a basis for V. Okay, now we will consider the matrix representations of these two linear transformations with respect to T with respect to B and TW with respect to B prime. Okay, this is our idea. So we start with in order to get TW matrix of, if I represent this matrix as the matrix of T as A, then and we consider this as the matrix of this is our B, then how will you get this A? A can be defined using the equations T alpha j is equal to summation I is equal to 1 to n Aij alpha I. Okay, so this is the matrix of T relative to the basis B. Now we consider the matrix of matrix of TW relative to the basis B prime. Okay, we know that this is equal to, in order to evaluate this, we write T alpha, this is for j is equal to 1, 2, 3, etc. N, and if you define this T alpha j, that is equal to summation I equal to 1 to n, here we have B I j alpha I, and this is for j is equal to 1, 2, 3, etc. R. We need to find out the relation between these two. So how will you find the matrix of A first? So if we take T alpha 1, T alpha 1 is equal to T alpha 1 is a linear combination of anyway, since alpha 1 is an element of this W, then T alpha 1 is also an element of W itself. So this can be written as some A11 alpha 1 plus etc. A1 R alpha R plus 0 alpha R plus 1 etc. plus 0 alpha N, because this is an element of W. Okay, since W is an invariant subspace and alpha belongs to W, T alpha 1 also belongs to W, then this T alpha 1 can be expressed as a linear combination of alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha R. Okay, up to this basis elements, and rest of them are 0, and etc. T alpha up to T alpha R, you can consider this instead of this A11 we have A21, we have A 1 R alpha 1. So this is A11 alpha 1, AR1, this is our AR1 alpha R, this is A1R alpha 1 plus etc. ARR alpha R plus 0 alpha R plus 1 etc. 0 alpha N. Okay, and we have alpha R plus 1. T of alpha R plus 1 need not be in this W, then we don't expect the scalars are to be 0, so we write all the other things, A1 R plus 1 alpha 1 plus etc. A1 AR R plus 1 alpha R plus etc. A R plus this is A R, and we have A N R plus 1 alpha N, and etc. T alpha N is equal to A1 N alpha 1 plus etc. A N N alpha N. Now you write this matrix, matrix of T relative to the basis B. Okay, that is same as A11 etc. A1 etc. etc. AR A1R AR1. That means this is we collect these coefficients. So this is our A1R. Then this is not A1R, AR1. This is in fact AR1. AR1. So we have AR1 here, and the rest of them are 0. All these coefficients are 0. Next we have A12 etc. AR2 from the second, and the rest of them are 0. And from a T of alpha R, we have A1R etc. ARR, and rest of them are 0. Now we consider the other row from this equation, T alpha R plus 1. Then we have A1R plus 1 etc. ARR plus 1 etc. AR plus 1 R plus 1 etc. etc. ANR plus 1, and finally we have A1N A2N. All these coefficient need not be 0, so we have this matrix. Okay, so the matrix of T relative to the basis B takes this form. Okay, this can be written as some matrix B here, and B constitutes these things. This is R by R matrix, and we have a matrix. We can consider this as a block, and we call this as C. And this matrix, the order of this matrix is R by n minus R, because the whole matrix is of order n by n. And this is a zero matrix. Zero matrix has the order this is n minus R by R. And finally we have D here. The matrix D is also a square matrix, that is n minus R by n minus R matrix. That means a matrix of T relative to the basis B takes this form. That can be considered as the block matrices. Now we observe this B. I intentionally write B here because I defined B as the matrix of TW relative to the basis B prime. Okay, so when you consider the matrix of TW related to the B prime, related to the basis B prime, then we need to evaluate TW of alpha 1 first, then TW of alpha 1 is same as T of alpha 1 because this alpha 1 comes from the W. So this T alpha 1 takes this form. Okay, you write the same thing, A11 alpha 1 plus etc. AR1 alpha R plus etc. 0 alpha R plus 1 plus etc. Sorry, here we need not write the other things. We avoid these things because that is an element of W. Then in order to consider TW is a linear operator on W, so you need not worry about the other things. So you write T alpha 1, TW of alpha 1 is in this manner. Now you write, finally we write TW of alpha R. So these are the only elements of W. Then TW of alpha R is same as T of alpha R, and T of alpha R takes this form. Here we write A1R alpha 1 plus etc. ARR alpha R. You need not worry about the other things because TW is a linear operator on W. Then the matrix of TW relative to the basis B prime is nothing but this matrix. Okay, the matrix P that we have written here. So which shows that the matrix of A, when you write the matrix of A is the matrix of T relative to the basis B, contains a block which gives the matrix of TW relative to the basis B prime. So this would enable us to consider the characteristic polynomials of these two things. Okay, so first of all we need to find out the characteristic polynomial of TW and T. In order to find the characteristic polynomial, we need to consider the powers of this. If A is equal to A, B, C, 0, D, then the A square, what is A square? A square is the product of these two. Using the product as blocks, if you consider this B, C, 0, D, you can get, when you multiply this as in exactly same way in the matrix multiplication, that we will get, this is B times B, that is B square, plus C times 0, that is 0 here, that is B square times plus 0, and what is the second component, that is BC plus CD. You need to verify all the orders of these matrices, that those will be exactly the same way of multiplying two matrices. So, and this we have 0 times B and D times 0, and here we have 0 times C, that is 0, and D square, okay, 0 plus D square. So which gives B square, and we call this as some C2, some matrix C2, 0 here, and this is D square. Okay. Similarly, in a similar way, you can consider A raised to 3, A raised to 4, etc. In general, AK can be written as the matrix B raised to K, another matrix CK. This is not the power of C, it's some other matrix, and 0 here, and here we have D raised to K. So this is the power of A raised to K. Now we evaluate the characteristic polynomial of this T and W. Okay, now we have the characteristic polynomial is defined as T, a determinant of xi minus a. This is same as the characteristic polynomial of T, because here this A is the matrix of T relative to the basis B, and B is the matrix matrix of TW relative to the basis B prime. So you to evaluate the determinant of the characteristic polynomial of T, you need to write a determinant of xi minus T, that is same as determinant of xi minus a. Then this is equal to the matrix, this is the matrix xi minus a, that will give, here we have x minus a11 minus a12, etc., minus a1n. Here we have x minus a, here we have minus a21, x minus a22, etc. all the way up to we have minus a2n, and we have minus ar1 here, etc. x minus arr, etc. Here we have minus a r, and finally we have, here we have 0 anyway, this is 0, and up to this point we have 0, and here we have x minus ar, r plus 1 r, etc. Here we have a minus a r plus 1 n, etc. Finally we have a n n, x minus a n n. So this is the matrix of the characteristic polynomial of this. Determinant of this is the characteristic polynomial of this. You write this is equal to determinant of matrix B. This is determinant of, we write this is equal to, we write this matrix as, we write this matrix as, can be written as, we already discussed the determinant of B0 BC0D is same as determinant of B times determinant of D. In the 5th chapter we have discussed this result. Using that you can write determinant of this can be written as determinant of the matrix matrix of this part. Okay, so that is x minus a11 minus a12, etc. minus a1r, etc. etc. minus ar1, etc. etc. Finally we have x minus arr times determinant of this part. Okay, because here we have 0. Okay, so this is 0 matrix, so this takes this form. Then in order to evaluate determinant of this, then you write determinant of the other thing. Now you write this is equal to this is same as it's equal to determinant of this is our xi minus b, and this is in our notation determinant of xi minus d. Okay, so we have determinant of xi minus a can be written as determinant of xi minus b into determinant of xi minus d. So which shows this gives the characteristic polynomial of t, and this gives the characteristic polynomial of tw. Okay, so this implies this polynomial divides, that means this is a polynomial which is a multiples of two polynomials. So from this you can write this polynomial divides this. Okay, that means the characteristic polynomial of t divides, sorry, tw, that means this one divides the characteristic polynomial of t. Okay, so this can be stated as a lemma: if w be an invariant subspace of t, the characteristic polynomial for the restriction operator tw divides the characteristic polynomial for t. The minimal similarly you can prove in the case of minimal polynomials of tw also divides the minimal polynomial of. In the case of minimal polynomial, we consider the annihilating polynomials first. So if you consider the set of all p belongs to f of x such that, or some q belongs to f of x such that q of t equal to 0. So these are the annihilating polynomials for t, and we consider the other set, this set of all q belongs to f of x such that q of tw is also 0, and this generator of this set is always the minimal polynomial for t, and we write that is this is the minimal polynomial for t, and write this is the minimal polynomial for tw, and this generates this one. Okay, we know that a raised to k is equal to b raised to k ck 0 d raised to k, which shows that if you have a matrix, if you have a polynomial, any polynomial, some f of x or h of x, we have any polynomial h of x, a naught plus etc. a n x raised to n, what is h of a? Okay, h of a is equal to a naught I plus etc. plus an x raised to n, an a raised to n. Okay, so this is h of a. Okay, similarly, if you write this, you can write this as a naught I plus etc plus this this a raised to an can be written as the matrix b raised to n, c n, 0, d raised to n. Okay, now whenever that means you can write this matrix as this h of b, some c n or c prime, and 0 here, this is h of d. Okay, so we will evaluate this, then you can write this one, and you can, from this you can write h of a equal to 0 implies h of b equal to 0. Okay, that means whenever h annihilates a, then h annihilates b. The converse need not be true. H of b equal to 0, then you can expect this term equal to 0. That never implies that all these things will be 0. Okay, so we have one implication, h of a equal to 0 implies h of b equal to 0. That means the annihilating polynomial, this h corresponds to the matrix of t relative to the basis b, and this b corresponds to the matrix of t relative to the basis b prime. So tw relative to b prime. So whenever the annihilating polynomials of a are all annihilating polynomials of b as well. Okay, so that means this set is always contained in this one. That means annihilating polynomial for t is also an annihilating polynomial for tw. Okay, so this is contained in this. Okay, but we know that this is the smallest such polynomial which annihilates tw. Okay, so all the polynomials which annihilate t also annihilates tw, and this is the smallest among them, or every element of this set is an element of this set, means mt, the minimal polynomial for t, is also an element of mtw. Okay, this set. Okay, and we know that every element of this set is a multiple of mtw, so which shows that minimal polynomial of tw divides minimal polynomial for t. Okay, so this is in the case of minimal polynomial. So please note this, there is no proof for this in the textbook. It is discussed that a raised to k equal to b raised to k some ck 0 d raised to k. So using this idea, you can easily prove that minimal polynomial of tw divides minimal polynomial of t, because first you assume this thing, then you can easily get every annihilating polynomial of t is also an annihilating polynomial for tw. Therefore, every annihilating polynomial is contained in annihilating polynomial of set of all annihilating polynomial of tw. In particular, the minimal polynomial of t belongs to this one. Then the minimal polynomial of tw is a factor of this m of t. So you can get minimal polynomial of tw divides minimal polynomial for t. So this proves the lemma.